This one is slightly controversial. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new, hello, my name is Taylor. Thank you for clicking onto this video. I am so excited about this. This is my first kind of sit down, just talk video. As you can see, I have no makeup on, I've not done my hair, I am sitting on the floor. This is just gonna be like super raw and chill, and I just wanted to make a video about some of my high school advice. I have been so excited about this video. I've been jotting down just little pieces of advice that I've thought of over the past couple of months. I am a qualified big sister. I do have a little sister, so this is kind of the advice that I would give her, that I would give myself if I could go back in time. But of course, hindsight is a beautiful thing, and part of high school is just figuring it out yourself. But I just wanted to share some of my advice that I have. I've split them up into kind of categories. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is you. The first thing that I want to say is that high school is the starting point where you start to learn and adapt and evolve your values and what your morals are, what you feel strongly about. So high school is the very starting point for that, and it only really evolves more as you grow older and get into uni especially. And my advice for that is firstly to understand that this is a period of evolution is a period of evolution of yourself, and your values will change, your morals will change. And a thing that I experienced was they will become more complex. For example, loyalty was always a big value of mine, and when I went into high school, my idea of what loyalty was a very straightforward definition. You know, you always stick by your best friend no matter what and stuff like that. But as you grow older and go through more experiences, you might find that your definition of things like loyalty becomes a bit more complex. My other advice in terms of that is to be in tune with yourself. Kind of constantly reflecting on what you value, also what you need at the time to grow. So if you want to experiment, if you want to try new things, but kind of being in tune with yourself and acknowledging when you feel like your values are changing, but don't be too hard on yourself for evolving in that way. What you value this time last year is probably not what you value this year, and that might be for the better or the worse, but it is a period of growth in that sense, and you've just got to kind of roll with it and do what you need to eventually get to the place where you have really grounded morals and values and all of that stuff, which probably won't come until you're 30. But high school is a massive place of growth for that, and I feel like no one really ever talks about that, and it is kind of like a complex idea, but I just wanted to put that one out there. My other piece of advice is to acknowledge that sometimes it's just about trying to survive, and you really need to cut yourself some slack on the days when you are not overachieving or getting so much work done. Sometimes it's literally just about getting up, getting through the day, and then getting back to sleep at night, and that is totally fine. You'll find that a lot as you go through high school, and realize that productivity doesn't mean doing all your work. It also means napping, it means going for a walk, it means making yourself food. Anything that you do to better yourself, to better your day, and to survive the day is considered productive. My third tip is mental health over everything. You will not be able to function at your best ability or thrive if you don't have a happy and clear mind. So always check in with your mental health. It does not hurt to take one day off school. And make sure you are just constantly monitoring the balance that you have between stressing yourself out and having some downtime, and making sure that your body and your mind are balanced with your work and your school. Hang on, my battery's dying. I also kind of want to normalize not liking high school, or not having that dream high school experience that you often see in TV and movies. If you are getting to the end of high school and you're looking back and being like, that was not as dreamy as I expected it to be, then you are not alone. Just wanted to put that one out there. Alright, category number 2 is academics, and the first one is to use and abuse your teachers, not in a bad way, just make the most of them. If they will give you their extra time before school, after school, or during lunch times, use it. That's what they are there for, and you will really struggle to come across someone who is willing to put in that much effort into your success later on in life. You will find it, but I'm just saying it is not as readily available as it is in school, so make sure you use it. I can absolutely say that if I had not met up with my teacher multiple times after school and before school and during lunchtime, I would not have got the marks that I did, especially in maths. This one is slightly controversial. Don't be afraid to stand up to your teachers. I was always super polite and respectful to my teachers. I don't want to call myself a suck up, but I just had a massive amount of respect for them. I never wanted them to dislike me or think I was rude and all of that stuff. But there comes a point, especially as you get older in year 11 and 12, when you start to realize that there is a really fine boundary between being respectful and being respected back. I just remember being shoved around kind of by one teacher in particular when I was in year 10, and I was really unhappy in the subject. It should have been a subject where I had a lot of say in what I was doing because it was kind of my passion. And that was the first time when I stood up to my teacher. I sent them an email and I said, I am feeling incredibly unhappy. I don't think that you are listening to me properly. I don't think that you are respecting my opinions and what I want to do. And it was actually a really productive conversation. We ended up talking it over, and that was the first time when I kind of thought, I am not being treated or heard in the right way by this teacher. And I definitely was not rude to her when I sent that email. I was just kind of straightforward. So I just want you to be aware of that. You deserve a certain level of respect from a teacher back, of course. A lot of them, basically all of them, will give it to you, but sometimes just be aware that you should have the power to stand up and speak up when you feel like you aren't being respected enough. Another one, you've probably heard this so many times, but I'm just going to reiterate it. You will not remember your marks or even your ATAR. I actually have written mine down in my notes because on like the 1 or 2 occasions when I have been asked what it was, I literally cannot remember, so I have to go back to my notes and look at it. But in saying that, there is no occasion when I have been actually asked to present my ATAR. That has just been in like kind of passing conversations with friends or with family members and stuff like that. So just don't stress about that 60% mark when you should have been getting a 65% mark, because you will remember absolutely none of them. Another tip that I have is to ask for an extension. It will not hurt to just put it out there. Of course, don't just go around asking for them left, right and center, but never work yourself to the point where you are stressing to get something handed in on time. If there is a reason why you can't get it in, then just ask for an extension, because the worst that can happen is that they say no, and then you just gotta work your butt off and get it in. Okay, the juicy stuff. Relationships. Firstly, there is no right or wrong to have a relationship, to not have a relationship. There is no right way to do high school or to do relationships. I had 2 boyfriends from year 10 to 12, not at the same time, and it did cause me a lot of stress. But it is unrealistic for me to sit here and say, you don't need a boyfriend or you don't want a boyfriend, because everybody's experiences are different. Some people, a lot of people, have boyfriends through high school and have the best high school experience, still get super good marks. Half of the high school period of your life is all about boys or girls. So I'm not even going to go down the route of like, please try and avoid them at all costs. It's not going to do anything for you, because it might. You might be better off with a boyfriend. So instead, my advice about boys is this. Don't feel pressured about anything, not just like what stage you're up to in your relationship. Everyone goes at their own pace, and frankly, no one cares where you are up to. If they care, then their opinion doesn't matter. Okay, this is another controversial one. So try and keep your relationships and your friendships separate. I understand that they are often intertwined. You meet through your friendships, or you guys always hang out together. And I also know that half of the fun of being in a young relationship in high school is like gossiping to your friends about it, being like, oh my god, he sent me this last night, and like, what do I say? I get that, and I'm not telling you also not to do that. That is the whole fun of it. But if you do get into a relationship, my advice is to, from the start, set your standards low straight away and don't tell all of the juicy details to all of your friends. Of course, tell them some, but if you tell them absolutely everything, you'll get to the end of your relationship. Maybe, I'm not saying that you're going to break up, but just in case you do, get to the end of your relationship, you have a breakup, and your friends expect you to tell them everything about the breakup and all of the details. And when you don't do that, your friends might feel a bit betrayed, and it could be really awkward. I'm just speaking from experience. This is kind of what happened with me. And there's also another layer to it of keeping some things to yourself and your partner. Just having some things that you share just between the two of you. It is so tempting to tell everyone everything about your relationship. I did it, and people ended up not using it against me, but there were some things that I look back and I'm like, wow, I just wish I kept that personal and that kept that information to myself and to my relationship. The The next category is making friends, friendships, girls being girls, and I'm just going to kind of pile this all into one. My main thing that I want to say about this is to try and spread your wings as much as possible. So firstly, try and be friends with everyone. As girls, we are often competitive in nature, and I would not say that I'm a competitive person at all. But looking back, I realized that I blocked off a lot of potential friendships because I felt threatened, not only in terms of marks, but like boys, friends, all of that stuff. So I feel like everybody does have a bit of a competitive nature in them, even just a minuscule amount. So if you can try and get past that, realize that no one is your competitor or your enemy, and try and be friends with everybody. Realistically, it is impossible. You are not going to like everybody, and not everybody is going to like you. I also struggled so strongly with the idea that people didn't like me, and I'm just going to put this little like side note in here. It is still relevant to me. I'm still trying to kind of figure this out. I am often desperate for people's approval and for to be liked by people, and I'm not even going to pretend like I don't. But how I kind of have worked through this, and I'm getting better at it, is if you think realistically, you don't like people for whatever reason. Sometimes you literally can't explain it, you just don't like them, or you don't like a certain part of their personality, and that is just the reality. We are not programmed to like everybody, and so realistically it is impossible for everybody to like us back. So even though it can often feel like a bit of a bubble, I know I definitely felt like I was in a bubble at high school. I had quite a small year, it was all girls, and again, going back to what I was saying before, I blocked off a lot of potential friendships because I didn't know it at the time, but I felt threatened by them. I felt a bit competitive, or I just straight up didn't really like them. That's also fine. But trying to find friends that are separate from each other through sporting teams, through hobbies. It is good to have separate friend groups just in case. I put all of my eggs in one basket, and when those friendships fell apart, I actually ended up with no one, and it all worked out. It's all fine. But if you can try and have a few different friendships scattered around so that you can kind of lean from one to another, not in case anything goes wrong, but it's also super good for your like development, for your personality, for your social life, to have different kind of streams of friendships and types of people to be around, and people who have different interests to each other. That is something that I didn't do in high school. I did not try hard enough to make friends outside of school. Another piece of advice for that is to remember that if you are coming to the end of your high schooling experience and you feel like you don't have a massive pool of friends, or you don't think you're going to stay friends with your current friends after school, please trust me that making friends outside of school is so much easier. I just want to put it out there, if you are kind of like feeling a bit down. I did when I left school. I was like, this is really underwhelming, because I thought I was going to come out of high school with like so many best friends. It is just so much easier in so many different ways to make friends after school. So hang in there. The other thing that I want to say along that line is, don't feel like you're being deceitful. I don't know if that's the word, but don't feel like you're being deceitful in expanding your social network. Girls are so obsessed with loyalty. As I was saying before, I was one of them. I really valued loyalty. The whole clique concept is built on loyalty. So just kind of tell yourself that you are not being disloyal by finding other friends. As I said before, there are so many benefits to finding other friends, to expanding your social network. Going back to that whole idea, it kind of goes off the concept of you are made up of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I guess you could kind of think of it almost like that as well. Like if you have one best friend here who has this personality trait, and then you have this friend over here who has this value, and this friend here who has a different value, you take on different parts of them, and it really just helps you to build your own personality and values and all of that stuff that I was talking about. Whereas I guess if you're friends with all the same people who are exactly like you and who you stick with for the whole 6 years of your high school experience, I'm not saying you're to be a boring person. I feel like I would have learned a lot more about myself. I would have been a bit more multifaceted. But since I've gone to college, I have friends who have so many different values and morals and like ideas and personality traits, and I've kind of taken on little bits of everyone. And I just think that's a really cool idea, that the people that you hang around influence you and influence your development. I find that super cool. I know it's so much more complex than that, but some food for thought. The last one that I want to touch on is to not be afraid to block and unfollow. Since leaving school, I have started doing massive unfollowing sprees. I am not going to sit here and say that that is an easy thing to do, and this is probably the hardest bit of advice that I will give you, because it is so hard to just go and unfollow someone that you probably will see every day at school. I hear a lot, unfollow people who don't make you happy, and I always think of like unfollowing influencers or celebrities, but the same thing goes for people who may be still in your life. If they seriously don't bring you joy, then unfollow them. And I didn't do this because I was afraid of them caring or confronting me about it. I'll tell you two things now. Most of the time they won't even know, and if they do know, it means they have one of those unfollowing apps. I am going to put my hand up right here and say that I had an unfollowing app, and I did take it personally when people unfollowed me, but that does not say anything about the people who unfollowed me. That purely just says something about myself, which is that I get a lot of my reassurance and my self-worth from the people who follow me on Instagram. That's just a crazy idea. Like, why do I care so much about some random girl who I probably never had a conversation with following me and liking my photos? So if you are me and you do have one of those unfollowing apps and you find that you do care and take it really personally, don't freak out, because you're not a bad person at all. I think it's just important to kind of reflect on that and think, why do you need to get your self-worth from the people who follow you on Instagram? Where else can you get it from? Just gonna put that one out there. But if you are on the other side and you want to unfollow someone, you need to focus on yourself first. If they do see that you unfollow them on an unfollowing app, I can bet you that they are not going to confront you. Imagine someone coming up to you and being like, why did you unfollow me on Instagram? That's just the most awkward interaction ever. Nobody wants that. So even if they do care, they are probably not going to confront you. And another quote that is really relevant in this situation is, those who mind don't matter. Yes. Those who mind don't matter, those who matter don't mind. And I think that is so relevant in this thing. If they really care that much, then they do not matter. And it just kind of reinforces why you unfollowed them in the first place. So don't be afraid to do it. Get rid of anything that doesn't actually bring you joy. I did find that it was so much easier to do a mass unfollow after school. I did it and I felt so good. Also because I knew that I'd probably never see them again, or at least never have a conversation with them again. I think that is all I have for today. That is, as I said before, just a teeny bit of the massive amount of advice that I have in my little brain here. I often think to myself, I cannot believe that I survived school. And I hope that wherever you are in your high school experience, you found some of this helpful today. So thank you for watching this far. If you did, I have a uni advice video coming up on Friday. So if you are entering uni or just want some uni advice, then make sure you are subscribed for that. But for now, that is all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye!